Welcome to Deadball TV, everybody. Today's episode is going to be a complete European semifinals preview. We're going to be talking about the Champions League, Europa League, and the Conference League. And we have a great cast for today's show. Izak joins Deadball TV for the first time. And of course, Michael Talks Football, who is basically a permanent member at this point of the channel, back again. And we're going to break this down, guys. This is going to be a two-part video, okay? The first part of the video is a bunch of fun categories that we're going to go through. This applies to all three competitions, different questions that we have discussed, and then the match predictions, the actual score lines, who we think is going to win or lose. That's going to be the second half of the video. I will put timestamps down below. If you guys like videos about European football, make sure you're subscribed because we might do something like this again for the final. And then after all the finals conclude, biggest storylines, whatever that may be. And of course, make sure you're subscribed to Izak and Michael Talks Football. The links to their channels and their social medias will be in the description. Gentlemen, let's get started. Let's start with the most unpredictable matchup. Izak, you are new here. Welcome. Why don't you go first?
Thanks for having me, Ben. For me, it's got to be one of the Champions League fixtures for sure. I feel like either or, you can make so many counterpoints as to how anything's possible in either or. But I'm going to have to go with Barcelona versus Inter because it really is a attack versus defensive game. I know Inter defensively in the Serie A are not the same pedigree like to what the records they've been getting in the Champions League are, but still, a lot of their records have been impressive. Prior to Bayern, I think they only conceded 1 or 2 goals. And Barca's attack had been another world. So it really is going to be that kind of attack versus defensive game. You can argue for Arsenal PSG as well because neither of them have won the Champions League before. So it would be a huge feat for either of them to reach the final. But my pick's got to be Barcelona versus Inter for sure.
Okay. Interesting. Barca versus Inter. We'll get to that later, but I'm pretty confident for one of those teams, actually. Pretty bullish. Michael knows which one I'm leaning towards. I said Real Betis Fiorentina. I think that's the most unpredictable semifinals matchup because I think these teams are actually carbon copies of each other. It's like, you guys watch Invincible? Have you seen that show on Amazon? Have you seen Avengers?
No,
yeah, I've seen Avengers. Never seen Invincible.
Okay. Okay, so I had two metaphors in case you guys hadn't seen Invincible. By the way, check it out. Great show. It's like an Endgame when Captain America fights himself when they go back into the other portal. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that is Real Betis versus Fiorentina. Two teams that play very good attacking football. The defenses are kind of meh. And if you look at their stats coming into this game, goals allowed in the last 10, goals scored in the last 10, they're literally clones. It's like shadow clone jutsu right now between these two guys. I think the biggest difference is you're going to have an old seasoned manager in Pellegrini going up against a young buck for Fiorentina. And I have no freaking clue what's going to happen in this game or these games. I just think it's going to be a lot of goals. But I would not place a bet on Real Betis Fiorentina if you're a betting man.
Nah, neither would I. I would not put a bet on Fiorentina and Betis. I actually went with the Champions League matchup too, and I went with Arsenal PSG.
Okay.
Arsenal and PSG is a very intriguing tie because you look at PSG, kind of similar to like the Inter and Barca. Very good defense for Arsenal, but they have those sort of game changers with like a Saka. I mean, somehow Declan Rice has turned into one of the best free kick takers in the world. I don't know how that's happened. You got Martinelli who's balling out. And then you got PSG. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of like the Seattle Seahawks against the Denver Broncos. What was it, like 2015, 2016? Legion of Boom and Peyton Manning and their attack was unstoppable. This is like the same similar situation going on here. Now, which one will prevail? The good defense for Arsenal or the elite attack for PSG? I don't know how it's going to go down because we kind of seen with Arsenal, maybe there's a mentality switch with this team. Maybe there's a mentality switch with Arteta that they don't feel the pressure. And I think now PSG are sort of like veterans in this Champions League. I think it's their 4th semifinal in the last 6 years. Luis Enrique has won the Champions League before. I really don't. I think this is super 50-50. I think this is more 50-50 than Inter and Barca, and this is going to be a good matchup.
Interesting. More 50-50 than Barca versus Inter. Both Europa League fixtures, in my opinion, are pretty close to call. And yes, I am including Tottenham, Bodo Glimt, which I have more to say about that later. I do think that's actually a really disturbingly and honestly embarrassingly close fixture. And I think Athletic Club versus Man U is also kind of separated by a knife's edge. I didn't ask you guys this beforehand, but what's the opposite? The most predictable European semifinal.
Ooh.
Is this even a question? Is this even a question? It's Chelsea Jurgården. Okay, because you're going to ask another question in the categories like a Tibetan monk and all this sort of stuff. If Jurgården beat Chelsea, I will go kiss the feet of the Dalai Lama. I will go do it. There is no way in heck that Jurgården should be beating Chelsea. No way. Chelsea. Here's a stat for you guys. Chelsea transfer market value is 922 million. Jurgården is 21 million. This would be one of the biggest upsets in European history.
They're worth 25% of Enzo Fernandez.
Yep.
That's insane.
Almost less than 20% of Caicedo, I think. How much was Caicedo? 105? Yeah. Enzo was 125 million. So this would be a monumental upset if Jurgården pulled this off, and I think it's very predictable. I think even Jurgården fans, they accept it. They're like, hey, we're just here to have a good time. We've created history for our club. And Chelsea, if Chelsea dare lose this game, oh my God, I'm going to be so much shameless about my Nordic team.
Yeah, not to mention, Jurgården has also been like two back and forth in form, and their road also. I know Chelsea have had some questionable moments themselves, like losing their second leg to Legia Warsaw, but Djurgården's their last opponent was Rapid Vienna, who are looking to be in some of their worst form in a while. So I definitely cannot trust Djurgården's in this fixture. I've backed Chelsea since the beginning.
Okay, so if Djurgården beats Chelsea, we're all shaving our heads and joining a Buddhist monastery order in Tibet.
I will take the first flight to Thailand and I will join a Buddhist monk right there. Some temple, bro. I will start
We will
praying.
live stream our conversion on,
exactly.
On both channels.
This will be the first time I don't want an upset to happen.
Oh, man.
We're all going to be looking like Aang from Avatar in about 2 weeks here. Okay, so that's like the extreme upset. That's where we are going through religious conversion, abandoning our families and loved ones and moving to live in the mountains. But what would be an upset that maybe it wouldn't be that extreme, right? We're not so confident to that level, but if it happened, we would only shave our head. But we're not going to become monks. We're just going bald for a little bit, which semifinal would classify as that?
If you're talking about like banking on an underdog, my shot would be Bodo Glimt versus Tottenham. I still have a feeling Tottenham will pull through at the end, but I just cannot be surprised if Bodo do this. This club are honestly on one of the most insane rises I've seen in a long time. They're one of the most well-kept clubs as well. Everything they're doing is right, like to their recruitment, to the dedication of the players, like the training conditions they have to endure and still push through defeating so many insane clubs. I know there's a lot of talk about how insane their home field advantage is, how some clubs have to come and play on frozen turf, and that leaves a huge disadvantage for them. But these guys, even if they're used to it, they still have to train through that all the time. And their home record is insane. So as long as they can hold off Tottenham a bit when they travel away, once they come at home, then they honestly can wrap that up. If they get like a 2-0 victory against Tottenham at home, but then that first leg they lose like 2-1 away, it's obviously 100% possible that outcome could happen, I'd say.
So underdog we back the most, Bodo Glimt.
Yeah, I was going to say, Isak doesn't know, but Jack is a Spurs fan. I'm going to say right now, you better be worried, bro, because Bodo Glimt might do this. I really feel confident. I would be very worried because
I'm very worried.
They like, if people think they've had an easy road, they have beaten Olympiacos. They won the Conference League last season. They beat Lazio, who are in a top 4 battle for Serie A this season. They have destroyed many teams over the years. Yes, they've never made it to the Champions League. But Bodo Glimt are no joke. Like, it's not even that they've gotten lucky. They have played such good football for many years now, and it's gotten to this pinnacle point of possibly making it to a Europe. Like, I don't think people understand the gravitas or the magnitude of this sort of achievement for Bodo Glimt. A town of 50,000 people. You could fit the entire town in Spurs Stadium, and there would still be empty seats. I mean, it would start looking like Etihad at this point in time then, if Bodo Glimt were playing in Spurs Stadium. I'm very bullish on them. I think they can give a decent game to Spurs because Spurs right now, yes, they did well against Frankfurt, but it's just a team in dilemma. And they're not play. I wouldn't say they're playing for Ange, but you can just see there's such a disconnect between the manager and player that I think this is a great opportunity for Bodo Glimt.
I was going to say also, like, obviously there's a bit of talk with Ange and all that, but he also knows not to underestimate a team like this because I think they played a few years back in the Conference League when he was at Celtic, and Bodo annihilated them both legs. I think they won both legs.
Ties. Yeah, 5-1
so
on aggregate scoreline.
Ange will know that, like, it's not going to be an easy task. And Celtic were in great form. They just won the double. As we all know, they love Ange. So, yeah, I think that it's honestly way more 50-50 than it should be, unfortunately, for Tottenham.
Dude, I don't even think it's 50-50. I literally have written down, I think it's 60-40 Bodo Glimt.
Really?
Like, I think the only reason, I mean, let's think about it. Like, if you back Spurs, it's probably because they have better individual players in their Premier League team. I think if you replace the Spurs badge with, I don't know, Royal Antwerp or something like this, and you copied and pasted Spurs form to Royal Antwerp, and that's who Bodo Glimt was playing, everyone would be like, I think Bodo Glimt's winning. But because it's a Prem team, and it's like when the U.S. plays Panama, even though Panama's beaten them like 4 times in a row, it's still like, well, Weston McKennie, he's at Juventus, got to watch out. I mean, I think that is blinding people in this tie. I think Spurs' best chance, not to break down the prediction too much, Michael, is what you said in our La Liga episode, where we kind of dug deep into the La Liga teams semifinals. You can check that out on the channel. Is that you pray to God Premier League form doesn't carry over. If it doesn't carry over, Spurs should win. If it does carry over, it's absolutely cooked. And I think it could be embarrassing, actually.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys have played on artificial turf. Going from grass and playing on artificial turf, it's a bitch. The way the ball bounces, how much velocity you put on the pass and crosses, it's like playing 2 different sports in a time. So that advantage for Bodo Glimt, I don't think people understand that as well when they have to travel to Bodo. And look, man, it might be only 8,000 seater stadium for Bodo. They bring an atmosphere, and Spurs are in trouble.
Yeah, and also Bodo are leading in some of the charts. I think they have the top goal scorer, Hogue, in the competition, and also their keeper Heiken has made the most saves. And I saw like the stats before we recorded. It's like I think it's over almost double to second place, whoever it was. So honestly, they're on another level right now. They're loving European football, but at the same time, like you mentioned, Tottenham's form in the Premier League has not really been translating to European football. So, I mean, many expected them to fall down against Frankfurt, and they pushed through barely. So it really could go either way for me.
Yeah, to be honest, our European fixtures, every single one, I feel like, has been extremely boring. Like, I've been watching them late, recorded. Y'all, I'm falling asleep on the couch. Like, we advanced against Frankfurt. I was still half asleep. I was like,
oh, yeah.
Thank God Cuti Romero's putting in a shift tonight, because there's nothing else for me to really walk away other than the boys dug deep, which is the least they can do after being 17th in the Prem.
That was the only match that I had available, like, on my TV. All the other ones I had to pay a subscription for. So I was forced to watch Frankfurt versus Tottenham, and it was so dull. And then I look at all the other matches, like Bolo's going to extra time with Lazio. Manchester United Lyon is like on another level. I was so pissed.
Dude, if you look at Bodo Glimt, like, Michael, we said that Lazio were probably the #1 Europa League favorites, and they just knocked them out. If they take out Spurs as well, and then I don't care who they meet in the final, it doesn't matter as far as I'm concerned, and they win, I need a 30 for 30 ESPN documentary, and we got to start talking about, is this the most difficult, impressive European Trophy Cup run of this century? Relative strength.
Not even European Cup, any footballing achievement. It's up there with Iraq winning the Asian Cup, or Greece, or Denmark. So, look, I think people got to really now watch this Bodo Glimt team and say, we need to copy that. I think a lot of like sort of mid-tier leagues in Europe, like a Belgium, maybe even HRVizak, they can take stock into what Bodo Glimt are. This is not like some sugar daddy bought Bodo Glimt and said, here's all the money you want. Go to the candy shop, go to Louis Vuitton, buy what you want. They have organically done this, which is even more of an incredible story.
I'm sweating bullets just thinking about it. Let's move on before I have a panic attack. the one player who cannot afford a bad semifinal.
I don't think this player is under pressure to perform. I just think if he doesn't perform, his team are screwed. And that's Bruno Fernandes. I think Bruno has to perform for Manchester United. Because he's basically everything for Manchester United right now. I'm not putting any stock into Højlund right now. I'm not putting any stock into Garnacho. Those two almost are a liability for Manchester United. You've seen Bruno. This guy, you could say what you want. Oh, maybe he's not world class. He is world class. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he's doing everything in his powers to drag Manchester United to a Europa League trophy and qualify for the Champions League football. And he's everything for the attack, everything for the midfield, building up play, free kicks, corners, everything for Manchester United run through is Bruno. And if Bruno has a bad game, who else in Man United do you expect to have a good game and actually step up? Who? Ugarte? Maybe you could say Casemiro? Bruno is everything. So I think he's a player who cannot afford to have a bad semifinal. Not in the sense that he's under pressure, but he is so vital for United.
So you're going to him for like performance. Like he needs a good performance.
Yeah, I would say he needs a good performance. Not in the sense that he's under pressure. Yeah, obviously, I think Bruno's always under pressure to perform. But, I mean, if he doesn't perform, I don't give a chance to Manchester United.
Okay, that's a good one. I thought about him. I got somebody else, though. Izak, you want to go next?
Sure. I don't know. I think this is really focusing on just individual achievement, but my pick was going to be Rafinha, mainly because obviously Barcelona are going to potentially be missing Lewandowski. That's a huge hit that Barca really need to step it up in the attack. But not just that, also the fact that there's so much talk around him being the Ballon d'Or favorite. And he's already gotten insane numbers in the Champions League. I think he's equaled with Messi on goal contributions overall in just one UCL season, which is insane. So no matter what happens, he's definitely had a fantastic year, also in La Liga as well. But obviously the Ballon d'Or at the end, the end trophies add so much weight. So Barcelona needs to win a Champions League, and he really needs to perform against Inter, who have an incredible defense. If he pushes through and has a good performance against a defense like Inter, that could really make all the difference for a Ballon d'Or trophy for me.
Okay. I like it. I had two answers to this question. One was importance to the team, kind of like the angle Michael took. And then one was reputation. Izak, kind of the angle you took. I'll do reputation first. Very close to you. I said Pedri. I said Pedri because I think if he wants to leapfrog Rafinha in the Ballon d'Or voting, which most people have him between 3 and 5, something like that, he needs to have a really, really good game. I think he's also fighting for the best midfielder in Europe, which I think he's getting a lot of shouts for that. And I think his main competition for that, at least this season, is Vitinha from PSG. Now, I don't think Vitinha is the second best midfielder, but for some reason the streets are saying that. So whatever. That's who he's trying to overcome. If Rafinha doesn't have a great game, 2 great games against Inter, let's say he doesn't even get a goal involvement, but Barca go through, I think you could see Pedri, depending on how the rest of the pieces fall, he could even go to number 2 in the Ballon d'Or rankings. And then at that point, it's going to be neck and neck with Rafinha. What happens in the final? We have the Copa del Rey final against Real Madrid this weekend. He could have a big game there. I'm fascinated to see. I just don't think Pedri can go out sad in the semifinals. Like if Barella and Çalhanoğlu eat him up, then, his Ballon d'Or shout, I think, is dead. I think Rafinha might be able to survive the Ballon d'Or front runner, keep his spot if Barca win the Copa del Rey in La Liga. If they lose this and Pedri doesn't play well, I think he's out of the top 5. I think he would drop the most. Thoughts on that?
I would kind of agree with that, with Pedri. I already think, though, he's the best midfielder in Europe. So if you're the best midfielder in Europe and you're playing for the best team, you got to perform. And if you want to be up there for the Ballon d'Or, to be honest, right now I have him number 1 for Ballon d'Or rankings, even though I don't really care for the Ballon d'Or, but I just think Pedri has been phenomenal this season for Barcelona. He is basically the glue for the midfield. Defensive work rate, attacking, chance creation. I think he is so vital, especially against Inter. He cannot have a bad game, especially the Inter midfield is so good.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The thing is, the last Ballon d'Or obviously countered that a bit, but still attack gets so much advantage. So that's why I think you're right. Pedri definitely has a bit to prove in this UCL fixture. Like he needs to have that like step up to kind of like overtake Rafinha's dominance, but Rafinha's numbers have just been so insane. So that's why and also the fact that he needs to fill the shoes a bit with Lewandowski gone, who's banged in like 40 or something goals at the age of 36, which is crazy. But with him maybe gone against Inter, like it's a lot of shoes to fill. And obviously, you still got to have eyes on Yamal and Ferran Torres, who will probably be coming in instead. But yeah, I think both are good takes on that, honestly.
All right, my valuable player, the guy who his team really, really needs him to ball out. I wanted to say Vicario from Spurs, just because I think he's been largely embarrassing recently. But I'm actually going to nominate Iñaki Williams for Athletic Club. I could say Nico. Iñaki Williams. I'm going to say Iñaki Williams because I don't know if Nico's going to play both legs. And if Nico doesn't play the first leg, Iñaki has to ball out. He has to be dangerous against Manchester United because he and Sunset will become the two most important players in the attack. Obviously, you got our boy Vivian holding it down in the back, but Vivian's probably not going to score, right? So who's going to create the chances? And this is an Athletic Club offense that since the last international break, y'all have been really struggling to score goals. The chance creation volume-wise is there. The quality isn't really there. You're getting like one good opportunity per match, maybe two if it's kind of a poor opposition. I think if Iñaki Williams doesn't cook, Athletic Club are in big trouble. Now, if Nico comes back, then I would probably downgrade it and pick a different player. But assuming Nico Williams, we're only going to see him for one leg, I think his brother, the eldest Williams bro, needs to cook. Or Athletic Club they're up against it, I think.
Yeah, I'm kind of agree with that sentiment, but I would still put Sunset that he needs to play well in order for Athletic Club to perform and win this game. You could actually probably say Sonati, if anybody from the forward line for Athletic Club, because we know Sonati, this guy's Mr. Bulldozer himself. If he cannot be a physical player against Manchester United, I don't think then that allows Sunset to Inaki to Nico to really cook in the game. Yeah, but that's a good shot though for Inaki.
Let's move on to the manager that has the most to gain during this semifinals. I got a couple nominees. Izak, you take this one first, though. I got a couple hot takes, but I'll keep it in my pocket for now.
I was also between a few for the most to gain. The two I was like really eyeing were either Arteta or Knudsen, the manager of Bodo Glimt. Both have been managing their respective clubs, for quite some time. I think Arteta's been at Arsenal since 2019, Knudsen 2018, and has really built Bodo to where they are today. And obviously, if Knudsen wins the Europa League with Bodo, that would be tremendous history for all of Norwegian football itself, not just Bodo. But what Arteta, the pressure that Arteta's been having on his shoulders, that I know he's won the FA Cup recently, but I don't know, not recently, but within the past few years. But still, lack of trophies. People are always turning on him for not winning the Premier League finally after so much talk and hype and, bottling the league last season to City when they had a neck-and-neck race. But if he pulls through and wins a Champions League, like out of all trophies, I think all of those Premier League blunders from Arsenal will be somewhat forgotten because that's their first UCL title in their entire history. If someone like Arteta can be able to lift that, I think he would genuinely have the most to gain and cement in his legacy as a manager. And the fact that Arsenal believed in him for so long, there was so many ups and downs with Arteta, how he should be sacked one season and the other, we got to trust the process. If they trusted the process and they bring in a Champions League trophy, that would be honestly one of the greatest gains from any manager for sure. So it's between Arteta or Knudsen for me, but Arteta's my final answer, I'd say.
Does your answer change if Arsenal lose the Champions League final? Would you still say it's Arteta if they lose the final, or would you give it to somebody else? Because I was kind of thinking, I realized I didn't clarify this. I was kind of thinking more to make the final. Who has the most to gain from making the final versus winning the tournament overall? But I think your answers are valid.
Yeah, if we're talking about making the final itself, I would choose Knudsen on that factor because like he's already writing history with Bodo. Never has a Norwegian team made it to a semifinal in European football in the first place. So if he takes it a step further to the final, Arteta, obviously, if he beats PSG, that'd be fantastic. But Arsenal have already made it to a Champions League final. And still, like, obviously, that would be a great run from them in like a Champions League year they can cherish a bit. Like, obviously, not fully compared to lifting the trophy, but, positives to take out of it. But I think for Arteta, like, the trophy needs to be there for that kind of gained legacy versus Knudsen. I think Bodo, in a sense, like, obviously, they're going to play the best football they can, but at this point, they have nothing to lose. They've already written history.
So my response to that, don't you think, I'm going to draw a comparison here between Arteta and Pochettino. And I realize Spurs don't have the same European success as Arsenal. But I kind of feel like there's an argument to be made that if Arteta makes the final, that he's going to have that legacy stamp, especially because he already does have a couple trophies, maybe not huge ones, but a couple trophies in the locker, a little bit of a stamp on his legacy. Because I look at this from the Spurs perspective. We made the Champions League final 6 years ago with Pochettino, and we still talk about that. And if we're being honest, Pochettino has been living off that for the past 6 years. He failed at PSG, he failed at Chelsea, and he's failing at the U.S. men's national team. But what do people say? Oh, but he made a Champions League final with Spurs. It is still carrying him. It's like the first thing, it's in 100-point font on the top of his resume. I took Spurs to a Champions League final. I realize it's maybe not apples to apples completely for Arteta because I think the clubs probably have different ambitions and he's been there longer and whatever. But I feel like if he got Arsenal back here with the injuries that they've had all season, I think he could still lose the final, and it's like big dub, Arteta.
It would still be an incredible achievement without a doubt. I'm not going to like discredit him, but with Arsenal's ambition and like standards, they're so hungry for a trophy like that. And they've gone close already. Tottenham, I don't mean to throw shade at your club, I'm sorry, but like Tottenham's
please throw shade.
European legacy, like I know they have won trophies before, like ages ago in the Europa League. I think they won like maybe the first or second edition. I can't remember, but it's been too long. So Pochettino making it to a final with a club like that, when so many people ruled them out, I think there has been this buildup for Arsenal throughout this year, and people are starting to see like that you can't really take them lightly. Many people are saying Arsenal PSG is very 50-50. And the fact that they beat Real Madrid, I think that's already like a step in a higher direction in terms of standards and expectation. That's why I see your point for sure, but I still think that it wouldn't be as much of a stamp compared to Pochettino with Tottenham.
If I'm talking about like overall, which manager has the most to gain, I would also agree it's Knudsen from Bodo Glimt. I mean, they're living in a fairy tale. They believe in the Tooth Fairy. They believe in Santa Claus. I mean, they're basically in the Arctic Circle, so they already believe in Santa Claus at this point. But if they get to a European final, Bodo Glimt, bro, that manager will be knighthooded in Norway. He'll be knighted with the way he plays the football, and to get this club to where they were, second division to European final, is fantastic. And I think also for Mikel Arteta, if he makes it to a European final, I think he buys himself more time. He's got more credit in the bank, shall we say. Pochettino, yes, of course. He made it to European final with Spurs. It was a great achievement. I think for Arsenal, for where Arteta took them from, relegation, and then there's troops online talking about we're 18th blood, from that scenario to a European final, I think he buys himself maybe 2 more seasons. Even if next season goes bad for Arsenal, I think people are like, okay, maybe it's just a downgrade this year. We can bounce back. I think if Arsenal can do this and they beat PSG, who have been one of the best teams in 2025, they beat Real Madrid, they annihilated PSV, they did really well in the league phase. I think they only conceded 3 or 4 goals throughout the entire league phase. I think Arteta, he does well. Now, if he loses the final, yeah, people will cloud him and say, oh, you're just a nearly man, you're this and that. But at least he can say to himself, and I think the players can believe, and maybe the fans can believe, that we are heading in the right direction with Mikel Arteta.
Yeah, and he would have overachieved by making the final.
Oh, easily.
I don't think anybody outside of the most delusional Arsenal fans, which there are hundreds of thousands, were expecting him to make a Champions League final this year. No. I mean, the semifinal, as far as I'm concerned, it is already job well done. If you were expecting a Champions League final or winning the Champions League, I just think that's delusional. But I hear your point as well, and I completely agree that he surely buys himself 2 more years. Surely buys himself 2 more years, especially if he can get another domestic cup, or I don't know, maybe he makes it really, really, really close with Liverpool at the end of the season. I think I'm gonna hate for a second. I just think with Knutson, no one will care. I just think no one will care. They will say, "How did Lazio fold? Spurs are a banter club. Who'd they beat? Olympiacos in the quarterfinal. Yeah. The Greek league, that league sucks. The MLS is better. I just think the whole competition would be clowned by the mainstream media rather than say like Bodo Glimt are legit. And so that's why I'm like, the three of us maybe will be like, yo, someone get my man a job at I think AC Milan gonna need a manager this summer. Can we get how do you pronounce the first name? Kjetil?
I think it's Yetil.
Yetil. Can we get Yetil in here?
I think so.
5-year contract? I mean, that's what he should get if Bodo Glimt win. He should get a 5-year contract at AC Milan. Or if Conte leaves Napoli, boom, insert this man, let him cook. But I just feel like the football media will give him barely any flowers, like an embarrassingly little amount of credit. Can I nominate a name? Inzaghi at Inter.
Oh, yeah.
2 Champions League finals in 3 years when Italy was cooked, when Italy's a farmers league. I don't know, bro. That'd be... is he approaching Conte status in terms of managerial reputation?
If he got to a final, Conte's European record is absolutely diabolical. It's looking like James Harden in the playoffs. Doc Rivers, sorry. Doc Rivers has that 1 championship. Otherwise, he's a fraud in the playoffs. That's what basically Conte is in European football. He's terrible. I think he's gotten 1 or 2 teams to the round of 16. He's never gone to the quarterfinal. So if Inzaghi gets to another final with Inter, and Inter have not been able to spend money, they're signing Zielinski and Taremi and these sort of guys all on free contracts. They can't spend money. They're financially sort of restricted compared to other teams in Europe. So for Inzaghi to get Inter to another final, I wouldn't say he has the most to gain because he's already gone to a final with Inter. But if he wins the UCL, then we're talking about something else here. Then we're talking about he is going down as one of the best Italian managers this century, alongside Marcelo Lippi, Fabio Capello, these sort of managers.
Easily. If they win easily.
Yeah.
I just think a team like Inter, like you said, Michael, I mean, the average age of their midfield is 37. I mean, it's insane. They got Mkhitaryan and Çalhanoğlu running around there, and they're running laps on people. I think the job he's doing, even if they lose, as long as they don't get, blown out 4-0 or something in the final, which they won't, I would still look at Inzaghi and be like, hey, if I'm any club in Europe that's got buying power and I'm not happy with my current manager, I'm sending him a blank check. I'm saying write down whatever figure you want per year to come over here. That's what I would do if he got entered 2 Champions League finals in 3 years. Crazy.
That would be sick. I feel like it's might be a bit of a hot take, and it circles back to what you said about Bodo, but I think it applies to the entire Inter squad, including Inzaghi. They've been criminally underrated throughout the past few years, and part of me thinks it would be kind of like a similar outcome to what you said for Bodo. Maybe not the exact same, but still not enough people would give him the flowers and credit he deserves. It's incredibly impressive if he's able to do that. But Arteta's been in that spotlight for too long. He's been with that pressure for too long. Inzaghi, obviously, he's had to establish himself at Inter for some time, and he's really done well within the past few years. But still, people are not giving Inter enough credit for even reaching this stage of the tournament in the first place. People are still kind of ruling them out quickly.
Yeah, agreed. There's a couple managers that I think could have a stock up, but I think it's mainly if they win the final. So hit subscribe for that future AP. We'll see if those teams make it through. Let's move on to managers that have the most to lose. I got a hater take. I got a hater take. Let's do the hater take first. Luis Enrique.
Ooh.
Luis Enrique for me.
One.
I think the dialogue, if Arsenal beat PSG, immediately becomes, oh, you beat Liverpool? You beat Aston Villa just to lose to Arsenal without a striker? Y'all were never really that good. I genuinely think that's what the conversation would be. It would be like, yeah, that was cool what you did in the round of 16. Yeah, you won the penalty shootout at Anfield. That's cool, whatever. Aston Villa, you didn't deserve to go through anyways. Donnarumma saved you. And now you're letting Arsenal knock you out. The invincible PSG getting beat by Arsenal, starting Mikel Merino up top. Oh, I always knew Enrique was a fraud. I feel like a lot of people will be looking at him and say, like, he should have done better. How could he lose to Arsenal after what he had done already? I think that's what the takeaway would be.
Luis Enrique then has made it to back-to-back semifinals, and he's lost to Dortmund and Arsenal in the Champions League. Do you think that's going to be good on the record? That ain't going to look good, buddy. I'm telling you that right now. That is spooky times. So Luis Enrique, you better get the job done. You know, you gave that pep talk. We all seen that motivational video you give to Mbappe. You must press. You must lead like Michael Jordan. Okay. You can lead this team to a Champions League final. Go do it. You have the second leg at home again. Like last season against Dortmund. You have the second leg at home. Prove it this time. Get the job done.
Yeah, and I think also I remember what I was going to say. The fact that Mbappe has left the squad and so many people have actually been surprised with the turnaround form PSG have had. I still feel like obviously there is a lot of pressure on this side as they've never won a Champions League and they've got that insane amount of cash flow. But I still think this is somewhat of a miracle run this season. Like, obviously people are starting to notice how incredible of a team they are, one of the best in Europe with the form they've been in, already securing the Liga and title. But it's still somewhat, if we take a step back and realize how much of a turnaround of form this side has had throughout the season, I still feel like a lot of people are not expecting PSG to make it this far. If we look at the league phase of the Champions League, they were struggling. So I still think no matter what, Enrique has done a very solid job, and it wouldn't be necessarily the biggest like reaction where you got to say, okay, yeah, you flopped. This was a big hype up for nothing, because he's got another season, I think, to kind of establish this team and really take it a step further. So I see what you're saying, but when you really look at the development PSG have had throughout the year, like, it has been somewhat of a miracle run.
A miracle run. See, I think Bodo Glimt is a miracle run.
Yeah, that might be a stretch of words.
PSG is like, truthfully, I think the Prem Sims will think it was a miracle run because they've eliminated consecutive Premier League teams, because they knocked out Unai Emery, who's, I know he's better in the Europa League, but this is still a guy that strikes fear in the heart of the opponent in European competition. And of course, beating Liverpool, who looked like they were about to win a treble, and then that got reduced to one trophy in a matter of 2 weeks. Honestly, who else has a more miracle run? I don't really know if anybody else besides Bodo Glimt has a miracle run right now. I think it's been mildly.
That's a whole nother stretch. I'm about to get clipped now that I said PSG's a miracle run. But
okay.
I know what you're saying. I just meant, like, based off of their previous form, like, I still think many were not expecting them to reach it this far. I remember so many were clowning PSG, like, oh, look, Mbappe's gone. This is what happens to you. But it was just snap of the fingers. Enrique completely turned it around and really revolutionized them. And now all eyes are on them, yes. But there was a moment in time this season where, like, many were still losing faith in the club. And yeah, they still don't have that UCL legacy, which is a bit of a shame, obviously, with all the money they put in. But yeah, I still think that it would be what they've done already is still incredible. And even if they fail now, I think they should still trust Enrique, and they can just build forward in the future.
To be honest, I was one of the people clowning PSG. Because when they were 25th or 26th in the league phase, and I saw them behind Stade Brestois, Monaco, and Lille, I said, you guys are the fourth best team from Ligue 1 in the UCL. I said, are you serious? But since then, I've gone quiet. My hating on PSG has ended. I've bought the Air Jordan jacket. I've done everything. Shout out to them. I don't think Luis Enrique has nothing to lose in this tie. I think he has a lot to gain, actually. Because if he leads PSG to a final without Mbappe, Ooh, that's gonna be good.
I think Ligue 1 really wants PSG to make the final. Like
Oh yes.
this dude is carrying the French flag harder than Napoleon did back in the day. Like they really, really need this man for the respect of the league. Bro, a French side knocks out 3 straight Prem teams.
Well, to be fair,
Nah.
actually, they would have beaten 4 straight Premier League teams: Man City, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Arsenal. PSG are trying to collect the Infinity Stones of the Premier League at this moment in time.
They are, and they got one left, and it's Arsenal. So we'll see if they can get it. I know that's a bit of a hot take, but I feel like I know how the haters are. I see them every day on the timeline. I think they're going to clown Luis Enrique, even though I think he's done an extraordinary job with PSG. I also don't think Spain winning the Euro after he left makes him look any better, but I think he needs to make the final.
That's a valid point, actually. I forgot about the Spain take. For me, one manager, I think he has a lot to lose, is Ruben Amorim. I think this guy needs the Europa League trophy big time. Have you seen their form in the... How can Vitor Pereira of Wolves gain 14 more points than you in the same time span in the Premier League? How is that even possible? I don't care about injuries, this sort of nonsense. Oh, we're missing Diallo. We've lost Kobe Minu. You're Manchester United. You still have better players than Wolves. And you're losing to... You're getting... Wolves are doing the double over you. With Vitor Pereira. If Ruben Amorim, who was actually... I think he's unbeaten in Europe this season. He's obviously beaten Man City. He's been a lot of teams. Very good with Sporting in the Champions League. He's done pretty well with Manchester United in the Europa League. I think he has a lot to lose, though. Because people will, if they get clowned in this semifinal by Athletic Club, let's say if it's like a aggregate scoreline of 5-1, 6-1, people are going to look at Ruben Amorim and saying, should we truly back you? Should we truly get you all the players you want? Because, you know, he's talked about for many months now, this is a process. We have to suffer a little bit to get back to the top. Kind of like, you know, Arteta and trusting the process. Okay, either this is going to be a good process, this is going to be like the Spurs from the early 2000s when they had Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Tim Duncan. And it actually worked out. They got all the NBA championships. Or this is going to end up like the 76ers with Embiid and Ben Simmons and what's left of Markelle Fultz. Which one is it going to be? I think if Ruben Amorim loses the semifinal, there's going to be some eyeballs on him.
I think as long as Man U... I agree. He does have a lot to lose. But I feel like he's in a similar boat to another manager. I'm curious if that's who Izak's going to say. Where I feel like his credibility has already gone through the paper shredder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as long as Athletic Club don't annihilate Man U, like if Athletic Club, let's say they win on penalties or they win by 1 goal, I don't know if you can go any lower. But if y'all win like 5-1 on Ag, oh yeah, we're having an emergency boardroom meeting at Old Trafford.
I definitely think Amorim has a lot of pressure. I'm not gonna discredit that take, but I think 100% the answer up to this question is Ange. There's already so much talk that his job is massively on the line. I think if Manchester United still lose this, there'll be questions for sure, but I don't think Amorim's job is as much of risk because they still need to adapt to him a bit more. They know it's a different take to what Ten Hag have had. But Ange, he's coming up against the biggest underdog of the competition. We obviously said don't underestimate these guys, but still, biggest underdog of the competition. And the only reason why he hasn't been sacked yet is because of the Europa League. I know David Levy is not making that same mistake to sack a manager right before a cup final like he did with Jose Mourinho. He learned his lesson. That's the only reason why he's keeping Ange. So that's to me, he has the biggest pressure. There's already so much talk that as soon as the Europa League exit is there, he's out. Because this Tottenham standings it's even more abysmal than United's. Some people are even saying they might finish 17th by the end. I definitely think Ange is the correct answer here.
I think he's the layup answer. Yeah. I expected somebody to say that. That's why I had to drop my Luis Enrique one. I had to get that in first. Yeah, I think if Ange loses, the dialogue will be what it's been pretty much for the entire season, which is we knew an Australian couldn't do it. All of his trophies, you know, despite him winning leagues in 3 different leagues with 5 different teams and winning an Asian Cup with Australia, none of that matters because he, quote, couldn't do it in the Prem. That's going to be the takeaway. And then he's going to leave. He's going to go to a team in a different division, hopefully in Europe, and he's probably going to win something. And then Spurs are going to look like idiots. That's what's going to happen. I completely agree.
And he's also already tried to talk himself up, saying he always wins trophy his second season. This is his final trophy to win in his second season. Yeah. It's all up to now. He's talked himself up.
That was such a dumb thing for him to say. I can't lie. I thought that was so dumb by him. I love Ange. Been following his career for a long time. When I heard him say that, I'm just like, you're just adding pressure to yourself. Now you're giving all the bulletin points for all of the media. And we know the British media. They're not going to take it lightly on Ange. When he's saying mates and this sort of stuff, I do feel like Ange is on thin ice here. Once, if Bodo Glimt eliminates Spurs, he ain't getting on that flight back to London. They might send him a one-way trip back to Sydney.
Yeah, he's officially done. I think he said that in a moment of frustration because,
of course,
I mean, the media, dude, like, I don't know how many post-match interviews you guys have seen, but like the questions they ask this man are like absolutely ridiculous. They ask him if he thinks he's going to be sacked every weekend. It's just like the dumbest, most toxic media possible. And you can literally see it. I swear the man has aged 10 years since he got appointed. Like, he looks physically drained and defeated. He probably doesn't even care if he gets sacked. I think when he came in, he was trying to change the culture. He's a serial winner, tried to change the culture, realized, just like Conte realized, just like Mourinho realized, just like Poch realized, oh, you can't do that here with this ownership model. And I think he just kind of half checked out. I think he's a prideful man, so he's going to still go for it. But yeah, if we lose to Bodo Glimt, he's done. Let's move on to... I'm really excited about this one. The best defender versus attacker matchup we are most looking forward to. Michael, why don't you kick us off here?
I have two. So I'm going to say both of them because I just love both matchups. Number one for me is Kvara versus Timber. I think this is going to be fireworks. The other one is then Bastoni versus Lamine Yamal. I think these two matchups, you have to get the popcorn, get the notes. Take notes, people. You're going to get notes on how to defend in one-on-one situations, and you're going to get notes on how to be a defender in one-on-one situation, whether it's Kvara or Minimal. I'm looking at Timber Kvara. I think Kvara is a top 5, actually even a top 3 left winger in the world. I'm looking at Timber. I know we haven't done a stocks up, stocks down sort of video for Champions League players. Bro, Timber stocks are going crazy right now. There ain't no tariffs on him. Trump clearly didn't put tariffs on Timber because Timber... the way he locked down Vinny, of course, Vinny got some joy in some occasions. That's going to happen in football. You're not going to fully lock down a forward like that. But if he can lock down Kvara, that will help Arsenal. That will help his stocks. And also the Bastoni Lamine Yamal. I mean, you just want football. That's football right there for you.
Yeah, Kvara's on better form, too, than Vinny. So I think if he shuts up Kvara, who is he can be a bit of a knobhead and kind of get addicted to taking his man on over and over again, he'll get frustrated if Timber starts winning the first couple duels. And I think Kvara is just going to double down and keep going for it. So
he's going to keep. He will not stop until he gets some joy against him.
That's my number 2. That was my number 2 on my list. I am so freaking excited for Kvara versus Timber. Even if we get Barcola out on that side every once in a while, which we will. I mean, the PSG front 3 basically just moves.
Yeah, move
like
all the time.
Nobody stays central. But that's going to be fantastic. I'll just drop this one in here because it's the same game. I had Nuno Mendes versus Bukayo Saka.
Damn.
I am freaking hyped for this. And I think I said this in another video already, but I will repeat it here again. If Nuno Mendes locks up Bukayo Saka, he's got to be in the left back UEFA team of the season. Got to put him in there. Have to put him in there, man.
Oh, no, he will be anointed. He will be anointed as the best left back in the world. If he locks down Salah, he locks down Bukayo Saka, I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear no shouts for Luis Skelly, or actually you could put Balde there because Balde's had a very good season. I don't want to hear shouts for Theo Hernandez or any of these guys. Nuno Mendes.
No, Theo Hernandez.
I'm just putting names out there. He will be anointed.
Man's number 25 right now.
Probably at this rate.
Hey, at this rate, bro. Give me Miguel Gutierrez at Girona. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, true.
Maybe that was disrespectful, but it wouldn't be my first time. All right, Isak, what you got? Have we stolen yours?
I got to be boring. Yeah, you both of you stole mine. I went for Yamal versus Bastoni and also Saka versus Mendes. exactly what you said, Mendes. So if he's able to lock down so many wingers like that, he truly deserves to be considered one of the best fullbacks this season. And I think he's already proved himself in many regards in that matter. And Saka really tore it up against Madrid. So a lot of eyes are on him as well. And of course, when it comes to Yamal versus Bastoni, one of the prime talking points in terms of center backs this season. I think Michael said he's the Rolls Royce of center backs right now. So,
Accurate.
yeah, when you come up against the likes of Yamal, who's provided so much creative brilliance this season, we all know what this guy's made of. If he can, pull something off against such a top defender, that will also leave many people speechless once again, I'd say. So it's definitely between those two matchups.
I would say one thing though for Saka. If Saka gets the best of Nuno Mendes, because you can say one thing, oh, he did well against Real Madrid. Then the counter argument would be, oh, it's David Alaba. The dude has Kenny Smith knees. He's gotten all 100 ACL injuries. He's replaced all the ACLs. But if he does it against Nuno Mendes, fair play Saka. He might be one of the best in the world then.
Yeah. This will be his toughest matchup of the season.
Of his career, I would say.
Probably of his career. Yeah. And we talked about stars who need to perform in the semifinal. I think Bukayo Saka, after what happened with, obviously beating Real Madrid, you're going to get gassed up every single time that happens. And so I think he's even getting some top Ballon d'Or shouts at the moment. But I think Nuno Mendes could kill that. I think Nuno Mendes will stomp that fire out if Bukayo Saka doesn't do well. So that's going to be so fascinating to see. I'm going to throw one at you because I just think it's interesting. Nico Williams versus Mazraoui.
Oh.
You don't think that's good? Dude, Mazraoui is a good defender. That'll be a good battle, I think.
I'll give it to Mazraoui, but the issue is because Manchester United play to be fair, we did give a highlight for Bastoni versus Lamine Yamal, because I was going to say it's the formation, the tactics that Amorim and Manchester United use. But yeah, Mazraoui versus Nico Williams could be a good battle. But is Mazraoui one of the best defenders in the world? No. I think he's awesome on the ball, though. And creating chances as a center back or as a right wing back, Mazraoui does not the best. That's not his stronghold of his game. But yeah, I like the shout.
Any other shouts?
Maybe from Chelsea against Djurgården. There's actually a Japanese left back for Djurgården, Kiyogi. Yeah. He's a really good. He scored a ridiculous goal against Rapid Vienna in the quarterfinals, and he's quite good defensively. And he's going up against either Pedro Neto or Madueke. I think that's a pretty good shout. He's only 19-year-old left back from Japan. So, Jack, that's a guy to remember. He's a really good player. He only joined Djurgården, I think, last season or this year, and he's played really well for them. So that's a matchup to watch, people.
Yeah, he's definitely one of their standouts.
I will have a notepad ready for the game about his one-on-one man marking. What about Rasmus Højlund versus Danny Vivian? We excited about that?
Oh, the best one.
Dude, what if Højlund gets a brace? I'd be shook a little bit.
I think honestly, I might shave my eyebrows. I would shave my eyebrows. I can't lie.
The thing is, I get it. He's had a horrific season. I'm not trying to fully defend him, but Manchester United and Tottenham have both been different gravy in the Europa League. And Højlund, I think he has more goals in the Europa League than he does in the Premier League, which is insane. So I wouldn't be surprised if it does happen.
But to be fair, have Manchester United played the toughest opponents in the league phase? Because I'm trying to think. I think they played Bodo Glimt. They played Victoria Pilsen and these sort of teams. So maybe that kind of inflates his stats a little bit. But yeah, I would agree that, Højlund, I think he's just going through a difficult season. But we've seen in the past, some players get away from Manchester United. Like right now, De Gea and Antony are both in the semifinal of a European competition. Maybe that's what Højlund needs to do. Maybe he just needs to leave. But if he gets a brace against Danny Vivian, all the praise I've given to Vivian is going away immediately. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. No, it sounds harsh because we're calling him one of the best center backs, top 3 center back in La Liga. And I think that is true. But if he has a disaster class against Højlund, yeah, that'll be one of those, maybe not shave my head and move to Tibet and become a monk level, but a long meditation session right? Some hot yoga for like 2 hours at least. And I'm just sitting there thinking like,
in the dark as well.
Where did I go wrong? In the dark, yeah. You know where Batman was in that pit? I'm just going to go down there for like a week and just do pull-ups and be like, I can't believe I thought Danny Vivian was next up. Guys, let's go ahead and get into our concise match predictions here. I think those categories are really fun. We'll start with Conference League, then we'll go up to Europa, then we'll do Champions League finally. Real Betis versus Fiorentina. Izak, why don't you give us how you think this goes down?
So I know you said this one is really 50-50. I agree with you, but I am edging it towards Real Betis. I think they still have been slightly more convincing overall. They have both sides have their strong points for sure, but when you got the likes of Isco and Anthony clicking very well together, and they had a much more convincing display in the last Conference League round. Fiorentina, I watched their match against Celje. It was real. They got so lucky, honestly. Like Moise Kean scored nice goals throughout the tournament, but he got a banger there. But the other goal, I'm blanking out who scored it, but it was a total fumble from Celje's defense, like a very clumsy mistake. And Fiorentina won that match only by 1 goal on aggregate. And the same happened against Panathinaikos. They're really cutting it close in the Conference League. I know they defeated Juventus 3-0 and Inter 3-0 in the Serie A, but for me, they're still a bit too inconsistent. And I think Real Betis is thriving in form a bit. So I'm going to say the first leg finishes 3-1 for Real Betis, and then Fiorentina try to get the comeback, but they fail, and it's 1-1 in the second leg.
Okay. 4-2 on Ag? Real Betis?
Yeah.
Okay. Michael knows my prediction for this. I think Real Betis is going to win a complete shootout. I got them 6-5 on aggregate.
Ooh.
I think this is the most goals of any fixture in the semifinal. Little talking point here, because I think this one is kind of interesting. The schedule for these teams and the games that they have between the first and the second leg. Real Betis play Espanyol away. Fiorentina play Roma away. And I was thinking who this affects more. And I think it's got to be Fiorentina, because Fiorentina, Serie A, doesn't have the extended European spots. They're not in Europe as things stand. They're not even in the Conference League. So they're only 3 points behind as well, I think, getting into a spot. So they need a win. So if you're Fiorentina, what do? Do you say, well, let's go all in on the Conference League, and we're just going to have to beat Chelsea in the final and get through Betis to make it to the Europa next season? Or do you say, let's see if we can make a late push and possibly just lock up Europa that way? I don't know if 4th is possible for them. I'd have to see the table again, but I wonder what they're going to do in that situation, because Betis don't have that.
Yeah, I think Betis can feel a little bit more comfortable with Espanyol away, even though we know Espanyol are a pretty decent side at the moment. Yeah, if Fiorentina have Roma away and Claudio Ranieri is unbeaten with 17 games with Roma in Serie A, yeah, good luck Fiorentina. They're gonna have to play their strongest team in both all 3 games basically in this time. To be honest, maybe I'm delusional. Maybe I'm going with heritage and Conference League heritage. I got Fiorentina advancing to the final and then losing a 3rd straight final. I don't know what it is. I didn't actually watch the game as well. I'm blinded by the badge. I'm blinded by the purple kit right here. I'm blinded by everything. The purple kit gets me every time, man. I feel like I'm watching Barney out there. But Fiorentina are still a good team, and I did watch the Celje game. I could not believe what I was watching. Celje were dominating them. Celje. I can't even name you one player. I know the manager, Alberto Riera, because he's a former Liverpool player. But that's it. They were actually playing good football. They made calamitous mistakes. I'm just banking on Moise Kean continuing his form, because he's been unbelievable this season for Fiorentina. And then De Gea making some incredible saves because he's going back to Spain. I got Fiorentina 4-3 aggregate scoreline.
I like it. I got it like this. 2 teams that are very similar in terms of talent and in terms of offensive output. Betis have less league pressure, but a slightly deeper squad, in my opinion. And I think Palladino, the Fiorentina manager, hope I pronounced that right. I like him. Came over from Monza. Good manager, but it's his first final as a manager. Ooh. And I think the old bull Pellegrini, shows them how it's done. And at the end of the day,
And
Betis
probably
squeaked
the
by.
old man Isco Disco showing out one more time on European stage.
Who is the best midfielder in this matchup?
Oh yeah, by far. There's not even a competition. Yeah, I mean you could give a shout out to Fagioli for Fiorentina, but Isco right now, the dude is oozing class.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going 2-1 in favor of Real Betis. You guys leave your comments or your predictions down below in the comments. Chelsea versus Jurgarden. I just want to start with a crazy stat. Please fact check me because I may have gotten this wrong. I had 3 minutes to find it before we recorded. When was the last time a Swedish club made a European semifinal?
1985 IFK Göteborg.
That's exactly correct. How did you
Damn,
know?
that ball knowledge.
I checked it about a couple days ago because I had to.
This
When
man is
Jurgarden made
reading
it,
Swedish Wikipedia. Oh,
of
my
course, bro.
God.
I got to keep up with my Nordic brothers. Shout out to my Swedish. But the fun fact, actually, Jurgarden manager is from Finland. So we got all the Nordic trifecta going on here. We got a baller Gulliksen, Norwegian player. We got a Swedish club. We got a Finnish manager. I pray to God that Jurgarden do this. This would be one of the most monumental upsets I've seen. I told you guys what already the squad value of the two teams. If Jurgarden pulled this off, they can't even play their full team. They have injuries. They couldn't register all their players because of the January transfer window. I mean, they're basically starting the new season. They've been horrific in Allsvenskan. This would be a monumental upset for Jurgarden, and it ain't going to happen. I give them 0.05% chance. Shout out to all my Swedish guys. It ain't happening. 6-1 Chelsea.
This would be y'all's biggest victory against England since the Viking invasions.
It might be even greater than that.
It might actually be more significant than the initial Viking invasion.
It would be, bro. Can you imagine a Swedish club knocking out Chelsea to make it to a final? No.
12th in the Swedish league. Not even
to be
like
fair,
killing
it's only been 3 games.
Okay, good point. But
yeah,
all right, here's another one. How about this? In the last 10 games, 6 losses for this team. 6 losses.
Wow.
In all competitions or just
all
in
comps? Yeah, all comps.
Yeah, because they did lose in, I think, the cup. They haven't been doing so well in the Conference League. But to be honest, Jurgarden have kind of had an easy road to this point. They've had a pretty easy road. I think they played Pavos. They haven't played a lot of strong teams, Jurgarden. So that's why I think they're just happy to be here. This is like, financially, this is such a massive moment for them. Then they get eyeballs from Chelsea and all the Premier League viewers. I've seen some already content creators who are like, is this a Chinese name? No, this is fucking Jurgarden from Stockholm. They're going to show you what fan culture is, really. But they're going to lose. Sorry.
You got a score for us?
6-1, Chelsea.
Oh, 6-1. Okay. Isak, what you think?
I'm going
Chelsea
close to
+5?
Michael's take. I said 5-1 on aggregate. 2-1 first leg, 3-0 second leg. I think Djurgårdens can put off a good fight at the beginning, but it'll just blow over. Maybe it will be the opposite, like how Yavar saw, we're actually able to beat Chelsea the second leg. But this team, like we said a few times already, they haven't had the most challenging road. It was a really bad Rapid Vienna side. Who Rapid Vienna, I think the round prior, barely beat Borat Banja Luka. So this is
and
not
also Rapid Vienna.
I've never even heard of that club.
Rapid Vienna also
There
got a
you
red
go.
card in the first 5 minutes in the second leg too, and that's why Jurgarden they took advantage of it and won the game in extra time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they had to go to extra time. I know they won 4-1 at the end, I think, but still, it was still pretty close. And Chelsea, yes, they could have been a bit better this competition, but they're still doing the job every single time. It would be honestly hilarious if they don't pull this off or even win the final. Like, with the squad, I've said it since the beginning, Chelsea need to win. Excuse me. Chelsea needs to win this competition. Like, it's do or die for them with the squad value they have, with the amount of players they have to their disposal, with the depth. Like, at the beginning in the league phase, they were playing some of their scrubs. I think one of the top goal scorer at the time of the Conference League in the league phase was a Chelsea player who had less Premier League appearances than goals in the Conference League. So, like, these guys have this in the bag. It's just no question about it. I would love to be proven wrong, of course. Well, I don't know, actually, since we said that we'd go monk mode if they do lose, but
Yeah.
still, it would
All
be
three
one
of us.
hell of an upset. It would be one hell of an upset, but Chelsea are winning this.
I got 5-2 on aggregate. I don't think it's going to be extremely embarrassing, but I think Chelsea, even though they've been really underwhelming, I don't think they're as awful as some people say. They'll get the job done. They have enough here to get it over the line. So we're going clean sweep for Chelsea. Yeah, even though we're hot take merchants, not even we are saying Drew Garden is going to beat Chelsea. Athletic Club versus Manchester United. How are we feeling about this one?
For me, at the beginning, I've said Athletic Club had been one of my favorites to win the whole thing. And maybe it's because of the fact that, it seems like a perfect fairy tale run with them playing the final at their own home ground. But this Manchester United are too shaky. They've gotten lucky too many times, especially against Lyon. I mean, the fact that they conceded 2 goals while Lyon had a red card was insane on its own. And the fact that they just pulled it off. I mean, it was honestly one of the most entertaining matches, of course, but for me, Athletic Club are going to take this. Even with the risk of Nico Williams not playing, I still think that they'll win the first match 2-0 and the second's a 2-2 draw. So again, 4-2 on aggregate.
Okay. 4-2 on ag, 6 goals. See, I'm taking the under here. I think Athletic Club win 2-1. If Nico Williams plays, maybe I push it to 3-1. But I think it's going to be pretty low scoring. I think very concisely, Athletic Club are going to win this because of their defense. 3 goals allowed in the last 7. I think Donny Vivian is the most underrated center back in Europe. Well-disciplined team, veteran side, and honestly just better. I think Man U will go balls to the wall to try to get this one done, especially Amarim, because he knows this is how he can put a little bit of faith back on, put a little bit more respect on his name. But at the end of the day, I think Athletic Club edge it out 2-1, 3-1, something like that.
Well, you already know my thoughts, so Athletic Club hopefully do this, and it's going to be tense. 4-3 for Athletic Club.
4-3. Okay.
But I don't. Should I give you breaking news?
Is Nico Williams confirmed out?
No, Nico Williams is on the bench, but Sunset just got injured.
Ooh.
What? Like in training, he just got injured?
No, they're playing right now at the club, and he just got injured. He got subbed off at the 20th minutes. So it begins. The
how bad was the
witchcraft of
injury?
not. He got subbed off, so hopefully it's not anything too bad. But he's a very injury prone player.
Athletic Club on PKs. I'm updating the prediction here. I feel like let's hope it's precautionary and nothing more.
Yep.
All right. Tottenham versus Bodo Glimt.
You need to start on this one.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I think Bodo Glimt, absolute beast at home. Izak, you already mentioned this. Just to run through some of their fixtures at home recently: 3-0 Olympiacos, 5-2 FC Twente, 2-0 Lazio, 2-1 Besiktas, 3-2 Porto. Spurs losing that game. Spurs are losing the away game. So, in my opinion, the only way that Spurs win is if they win by 2 in the first leg at home. If that does not happen, Bodo Glimt will win this fixture. Weirdly, only Karabakh are seemingly the only team that have gone away to Bodo Glimt and won.
I didn't think they were like 35th or 34th in the league phase of the Europa League, which is crazy.
Yeah, I think they finished last.
Absolutely hilarious. I think Spurs are in a really, really bad place. I know Europe and the Prem are different, but the guys against Nottingham Forest who scored like 3 goals in the first 15 minutes and a couple got chalked off for offsides. I mean, we just got embarrassed and the players look really defeated. So I think this is prime for an upset. My heart says that Spurs are going to do well enough in the first leg and that Ange is going to have one of his best games as manager and we're going to win this tie 4-2 on Ag. But kind of logic is telling me Bodo Glimt are going to win 3-2.
So what are you going to go with? Your heart or your mind?
I'm a romantic, so I will go with my heart and say this.
There you go. There you go, bro. Get the roses out, get the chocolates, and you're believing in Ange.
Oh,
I rate it,
God.
bro. I rate it. I'll give you some good news, though. Bodo Glimt are going to miss their 2 midfielders in the first leg. They're suspended with yellow cards. And Berg, the guy with the mullet, beautiful hair, he's so vital for how Bodo Glimt play. He's suspended. So if Spurs can just win that first leg, let's say 3-0, 2-0, or 3-1, it should, and I say it should be enough going to the town of Bodo and the artificial turf. If you draw that game like you did against Frankfurt, or you lose, so God forbidding Spurs lose the home game, I would not even travel to Bodo if I'm a Spurs fan. I wouldn't, because Bodo Glimt will do it. And to be honest, I'm a fairy tale. I'm believing in this Bodo Glimt team. It's reminding me of the Dnipro side that made it to the Europa League final, eventually lost to Sevilla. I think Bodo Glimt are going to somehow do this, and they're going to win 5-3 aggregate scoreline.
You think Spurs get pumps for 5?
I think the first leg is going to be 2-1 Spurs, and then I think the second leg is going to be 4-1 Bodo.
Okay. That's not unrealistic at all, actually.
I completely agree with the narrative that like Tottenham need to do it in the first leg. There's just no question about it. They need to get a very solid lead. But I think they can. I think it will finish 4-1 in the first leg, and then the second, Bodo will win 2-0. But not enough for a comeback. Tottenham pushed through. I want to believe in Bodo, and I think they can do it. Like it's a really 50-50 one, but something still tells me Tottenham will squeeze their way. For some reason, this kind of reminds me of the time when everyone was going crazy over that Ajax side in the Champions League, and they made it all the way to the semifinal, and then Tottenham, Lucas Moura hat-trick, and then we had to see Poch in the final, like we mentioned earlier. So really could go either way, but I think Tottenham will just do it.
But he's like, you remember when do you remember when Dnipro made it to the Europa League final? When they lost to Sevilla? Yeah, they beat Napoli, Club Brugge, Ajax. They beat a lot of good teams on that road. I don't know. I'm just getting the same vibe with this Bodo team. You did say that they would beat Lazio, so maybe I should just listen to you.
That's true. No, that's true. I had the feeling, for some reason, I just had the feeling with Lazio. Maybe it's because it was another club from Rome that Bodo had great history against. But I don't know. For some reason, I do see like the Ange hype being there. Everyone's going crazy that he might actually win his second year trophy. But I think it's going to break down here. I want to be wrong. I really want to be wrong. But I think Tottenham will only narrowly do it with that insane first leg where they score 4 goals.
Dude, if Spurs score 4 in a game with how completely dead the offense has been recently, if Spurs score 4, that means Dominic Solanke has finally decided to show up and he's getting a brace or something in this game, which I would like to see that because I've been waiting for the $65 million transfer to look like he's worth that money. I know he scored the pen against Frankfurt. I don't care at all. That's what would need to happen. Biggest stock up would be Dominic Solanke if we win 4-0. And then I don't care if, we can get cooked 3-0 away to Bodo. We're in the Europa League final, and I don't care. Extend Ange's contract as far as I'm concerned.
Lifetime contract.
All right, so lifetime contract. You damn right. So we're going 2-1 Spurs against Bodo Glimt. Okay, I like it. Inter Milan versus Barcelona. Moving into the Champions League now.
Well, you already know my thoughts too. I had Inter winning the Champions League before this season. I'm going to live and die by that hill. I think Inter have the pieces to sort of frustrate this Barca team. Now, look, Barca have been by far the best team in Europe all season. They've consistently shown it with the attacking play. Even defensively, they have looked solid in games. Their offside trap can cause a lot of trouble to the opposition. I don't know. There's just something about this Inter side that, they might not win the Serie A. They might not win the Coppa Italia. But maybe they'll just win the Champions League. And that will be their only trophy this season. Because they're going to obviously play Milan tonight. At the time of recording, people, they're playing Milan tonight in the Coppa Italia. The Serie A didn't go so well because they lost to Bologna. Maybe they're just putting all their eggs into the Champions League basket. Because that's the only thing they need to win. All they need to win is just win the Champions League, and these players have done everything in the Inter career. Inzaghi has done everything in the Inter career. I think they have the pieces to hurt Barca. Barca got to be careful, though, defensively, because they leave space. They leave the offside trap. These Inter side players, very street smart. They know when to press. They know when to move the ball well. And I have Inter advancing 4-3 on aggregate scoreline and going to the Champions League final.
Yeah, I honestly really admire the fact that you've backed Inter this whole season. Like, props to you. Even if they don't make it to the final or win the whole thing, like, too many people rule out this side. They don't get enough credit. But I think Barcelona will just do it. I think it's going to be really close, though. I think Barcelona will win the first leg 2-1. And in the second, Inter look to make that comeback, but Barcelona seal a late goal, 1-1 second leg, 3-2 on aggregate.
Low scoring. Okay.
I think so. With
Okay.
Inter, I think they can hold off Barcelona a bit, but maybe just break down at the end in the first leg.
Okay. I feel like I've put enough respect on Inter Milan this season. I thought they were going to beat Bayern Munich, and they did. But this is the point where I think their road comes to an end. And I respectfully believe that Barcelona are just too good for them. And I think it's going to end something like a 5-3 on aggregate. I think Barca win by 2 goals. I thought Inter have really, really started to look a bit shaky recently. If they had kept their defensive form, I think there's prime for an upset here. But based on what I saw this morning, Marcus Thuram looks like he's definitely missing the first leg. Dumfries is confirmed out for the first leg, might come back for the second. I think those guys are so critically important for Inter, more so than Lewandowski, especially against this type of opponent, where I think Barcelona get it done 5-3 somehow. Now, how does that break down over the 2 legs? I'm not really sure. But if Inter win this, I mean, it's going to be hard for me to pick against them in the final, regardless of whether it's Arsenal or PSG, because I'd be like, okay, I wasn't shocked against Feyenoord. That was kind of a layup for them. I wasn't shocked against Bayern Munich. I will be shocked if they take down Barcelona. And so I'm going to say, okay, Inzaghi is the GOAT if he can do this. So I'm going 5-3 on AG. Which I guess leaves us with Arsenal versus PSG. I'll break down my thesis for this one first. I think PSG are miles better than Real Madrid. I think beating Real Madrid because of their badge, because of the aura and the history, will make people think that this is going to be a similar matchup against PSG, and I think that's a massive mistake. I think PSG have already taken down Liverpool and Aston Villa to get here. And I think in 7 out of the 8 halves of football, they were the better side. Better to significantly better side. And I think Arsenal, unless David Raya has 12 saves per game and Timber and Miles Skelly put the clamps on Doué, Barcola, Dembele, all those guys, I think PSG win 4-2 on AG. I think they're too good.
But are you a little bit worried, though, PSG defensively, or if they face the adversity? Because the sort of demons came back. All the UCL demons, the Kimpempes, losing to almost Atalanta, bottling it against Barcelona. Those demons came back in that second half against Aston Villa. They actually showed maturity against Liverpool. But you saw when this team faced adversity, they almost crumbled big time. If Asensio puts that chance away, Aston Villa are in the semifinal, not PSG. So are you kind of worried about that aspect, or do you think, all right, it's done, just move on from there?
I think there's enough young blood in this team to where they can look at that as an old chapter of PSG's history. I think the fact that there are no big absolute megastars on the team anymore kind of lets this next gen breathe a little bit. I think Luis Enrique being the manager as well helps with that. I think if Mbappe was here, then I think everybody starts to be like, oh, we're going to fold again. But I think against Aston Villa and against Liverpool, there were moments like, dude, they could have easily fumbled the bag against Liverpool. They freaking lost at home despite dominating. They could have easily lost. And they said, nah, not this time. Went to Anfield and balled on Liverpool. Then against Aston Villa, they concede early. Despite Villa having nothing for however many minutes before Morgan Rogers scores. And I'm thinking, Jesus, again? No. And they said, once again, not today. Came back, battled back. They even get a late goal through Nuno Mendes to make it 3-1. Then they go to Villa Park. They look like they're cruising. all of a sudden we see 2 deflection goals, both off William Pacho. And I'm like, oh my God, it's happening again. And then this time, Donnarumma, and albeit the defense got a little bit better as the game went on after some questionable marking, to say the least, and some misfortune. They said, no, we're not going to let this happen. And they locked in again, popped an Adderall, and they made it to the semifinals. I'm not worried. I think this team has already proven that, like, that's the old us.
Fair point. But I would say that Arsenal, I think they have turned a corner as well. People said, you don't have a chance against Real Madrid. Last season, they went through Porto. Even though it's Porto, people can say what they want. But I think that was also a turning point for them to get that knockout stage victory in the Champions League for the first time in a long time. All right, then they lose to Bayern Munich. It wasn't an annihilation. It was only 3-2 on aggregate scoreline. Then this season, they destroyed PSV. I mean, you could say what you want about PSV. They destroyed them. They beat convincingly Real Madrid. I think they're in a prime position for how vulnerable PSG are still defensively, because they leave the space. With Hakimi and Nuno Mendes going all the time forward, there will be space for Arsenal. The fact that if Saka wasn't playing, I don't think I would give Arsenal a chance. I just think he's such a difference maker for Arsenal. They're good defensively still with Saliba, Timber, Lewis Kelly, and even the emergence of Jakub Kivior. I think Arsenal can do this. I think they can take the game to PSG in the first leg and then just bunker down and park the bus, park all the trains you want away from home in Paris. And I think Arsenal are going to do this 4-2 aggregate scoreline.
Wow, 4-2.
I think they win the first leg. I think they win the first leg 3-1, second leg 1-1.
All right, we're going reverse 4-2s here.
Mm-hmm.
Isaac, you're the tiebreaker here.
You're the deciding factor, bro.
I'm siding with Michael here. I think it's gonna be 4-3 on aggregate. 4-3 on aggregate. Arsenal win the first leg 2-1. PSG tie 2-2 the second leg. Obviously not enough. I think obviously there's that narrative that PSG totally transformed their form throughout this season. Like we mentioned, their miracle run, like really bad at the beginning, totally transformed. But honestly, Arsenal have really adapted well throughout the season. Obviously, they had their rough patches, but the fact that so many people were questioning how they perform without a striker, and it was looking slow at first, but then they banged 7 goals against PSV with Mikel Merino up top. I mean, no one was expecting that. Absolutely no one. And Arsenal's adaptation, even with injuries, yes, we saw Gabriel getting injured. But still, like we mentioned, Kivior pulling the strings very well. It really could go either way. Of course, PSG have been getting the best of many Premier League teams, and we can't really judge the last time these two sides faced each other, as it was a different looking PSG back then. But still, Arsenal have actually never lost to PSG before in their history. So I think they have what it takes. It's going to be really 50-50. I would not be surprised if I'm wrong and we see that fullback masterclass, Nuno Mendes totally trapping Saka. But even if Saka doesn't have his best game, I think the other strings from Arsenal can push through barely and do the job.
It's going to be fascinating to see. I mean, Arteta versus Luis Enrique, that's a great managerial matchup. You look at the midfields here, Fabian Ruiz and Mendes versus, I guess, Vitinha as well versus Declan Rice, Partey. Like, there's not a bad matchup anywhere. Dembele versus Saliba and Kivior. Raya versus Donnarumma. I mean, there's not a bad... You don't look anywhere on the pitch and you're like, that's kind of trash. I'm like, we're not really going to be paying attention to that. I mean, everything is pretty good, I guess, barring Mikel Merino at striker. But, bro, he even scored against Arsenal, so I guess it ain't that bad, right? I'm very much looking forward to this. I'm most excited of all the semifinals to watch Betis versus Fiorentina because I'm going to be 100% objective and just hopefully watch hella goals. But I'm really looking forward to Arsenal PSG, and I think PSG can do it. I think I'm becoming a French simp live on the episode, but I do think that PSG, I think they're destined to make the final this year, and I think we're going to see them versus Barcelona, and then God knows what happens in that game.
You want the storylines for that final? That would be troubles on the line, Mbappe's legacy in the total mud. I mean, there would be so much on the line in that final.
And if it's Arsenal, Inter Milan, I'm here for that too.
I'm here
that
for
too.
Arsenal. Arsenal Inter, that get me signed up for that. Because both managers have a lot to lose in that final too.
Yes.
That would be one
There's
very underrated final.
there's no really final matchup that I would be disappointed by. I think I would personally feel the least amount of drama. Me personally, in Barcelona versus Arsenal. Anything else I think would be pretty nice. But
If you
I'd
want
still be
the,
hyped for that, but not super, super excited. You know what I mean?
if you want the worst possible final in any of the competitions, it's Spurs versus Manchester United. I don't give a shit. Prem fans
No,
can come
easily.
at me. If we see a
Easily.
14th and a 16th place team in any league, it could be Monza versus Cagliari from Serie A. If those two teams met in a European final, people would be pissed off.
I 100%
Now,
agree with
granted,
that.
give them their flowers and credit to them that they made it to a European final. But my God, what would that say about other teams in Europa League?
Cooked.
Cooked.
They would say Mickey Mouse tournament.
Mm-hmm. Scrap it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Spurs fan. I don't want to see that. I do not want to play Man U in a final and have a relegation fight in the Europa League final. I think that'd be so bad for the competition. I mean, granted, I think it's a lose-lose because if we play Athletic Club, I think we lose. So it's like, all right, do I want to win a tin pot trophy or do I want to lose to Athletic Club? I mean, I guess I'll take the tin pot trophy. But
you win that trophy and you qualify the Champions League football. That's what you do.
Yeah. No, that's true. Look, as a Spurs fan, it's amazing. But as a football fan, it's like, ooh, I don't know about this
You
one.
could set the record for being the first team to qualify for a Champions League while finishing 16th or 17th place in the Premier League.
I've never seen that in any league. I've never seen. I know Sevilla won Europa Leagues. At least they finished like 6th, 7th, or 8th in La Liga. A 16th team in any league winning European. It could be the Conference League. If you win that competition, I'm going to be like, wow, cook the other teams, please.
I think West Ham did it when they finished 14th when they won the Conference League. But still, it's a different. No disrespect to the Conference League, I love that tournament, but it's still like the weight's totally changed there.
Yeah. I mean, the worst scenario, which we've discussed already, is that 3 Prem teams win every comp.
You won't see me on you won't see me on YouTube for a month. I'll tell you that right now.
It's going to be disgusting if that happens. Because then, God, the Prem Super League conversation is going to be all over the place forever.
Yeah.
Dude, what do we do if Inter and Fiorentina win?
Oh, we're partying. Everybody bet. I will get all the receipts. I'm going to have all the receipts out. All the receipts. All this dinosaur league. They have no money. All right. People have been trying to tell you the league is slowly getting back to its normal self of competing in European competition. So the greatest final is seeing Bodo Glimt in Djurgården, because as a Nordic person, I'm in heaven. I'm in heaven seeing those two teams playing in a European final. You could even add Arsenal. I couldn't care less. As long as I see Djurgården and Bodo Glimt play in a European final, Nordic football is back and better than ever before.
What a story that would be for Fiorentina as well, because they bottled 2 finals already.
Yep.
Yeah. This will be the
third time is lucky. They cannot lose 3 finals, by the way. If they make it to another final, they cannot lose a third one.
Yeah. They're on like Buffalo Bills record when they lost like 4 Super Bowls in a row. Dude, if Fiorentina overcome Betis just to lose to Djurgården, the whole fan base needs therapy. I will feel genuinely bad. Like, I'll be hyped because, oh my God, this team just won the Conference League. But at the same time, like, dude, being a Fiorentina fan, I would be like emotionally devastated right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not like a traditionally giant club either. So it's not like they're this fan base that has millions of plastics in it worldwide, you know? I would actually feel bad.
I would feel bad too. But then at the suspense of that, I mean, Djurgården winning a European competition. Do you know how many bracket rights they would have in Sweden? Oh, man. I don't think people understand.
The pros outweigh the cons.
I mean, if Djurgården won a European competition, it's like Olympiacos winning the Conference League. They had all the bragging rights over Panathinaikos, AEK Athens, PAOK, all these teams. Djurgården, all they just need to do is, here's my plus 4 Uno card, a European trophy. You can't talk to me. Except for the team that you said earlier was the last team that made it to the European semifinal from Sweden, IFK Göteborg. They've won I think they've won 2 Europa Leagues, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Maybe back in the day, back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Seemed like they
Back
were
in the-
pretty damn
I
good in
think-
the 80s.
I think one of the times Roy Hodgson was actually the manager for them.
Roy Hodgson was the manager. He won a
I think
Europa League
so.
with them?
I
That's
think
crazy.
so. I believe it was him or it was Sven Goran Eriksson. One of those 2 managers. Yeah, people.
No,
I'm a
either-
little bit of a history nerd, not just with football, with history too.
This man wears the Nordic badge with pride. That's pretty cool. I mean, either way, that's pretty big league. Yeah, man. There's gonna be so many takeaways and storylines, even after the semifinal. Like it's just incredible
wait.
how much there is to gain here. Yeah, I'm so hyped for this next week. Guys, we are going to wrap up the episode there. We hope you enjoyed this extremely comprehensive breakdown and prediction video for the semifinals and all the European competitions. Here on the channel, we're going to have match reactions following the La Liga teams in the European comp. So we're going to have a video recapping Inter Milan versus Barcelona. And then on Thursday, we're going to have the doubleheader, Athletic Club and Real Betis both going at it. And then, of course, once those rounds end, we'll have a bunch more videos like this, previewing the final, talking about our takeaways from the semifinal and all that good stuff. I'm sure Michael and Izak will have plenty of content on their channels as well. So please make sure you're subscribed to all 3. The links to theirs are down below. If you're listening on streaming platforms, please share the podcast with a friend. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed. And I guess we'll see you guys in a future episode covering the final.